Hello and welcome to today's program. I'm Jamie Smith, your Cancer Control Specialist with the Kentucky Cancer Program. Today I have Megan Cody with me, who's the Tobacco Prevention and Cessation Specialist with the Purchase District Health Department. Can you tell us a little bit about your job and what it entails?
Sure, Jamie. Basically, my mission is to reduce the number of preventable deaths due to tobacco throughout the Purchase area of Kentucky. And we do that by implementing some programs throughout the area that can help us to see those numbers go down. We work by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's 4 goals for tobacco control, which is prevent initiation of tobacco among young people, first of all, because you got to start at the beginning. Also, cessation services to help young and the older adults alike quit. Also, to eliminate non-smokers' exposure to secondhand smoke. That's been linked to health problems as well. And the last one is to reduce any disparities in any population groups.
Okay. And how long have you been doing this now?
About 3 years.
Okay. Well, today, of course, we're going to talk about one of those goals that you just mentioned, which is the cessation part of your job. And about how many people in Kentucky smoke?
It's about 28.5% of adults in Kentucky smoke. Compared to the U.S. averages is about 20%, almost 21%, so it's a big difference.
Right, a little bit higher. Okay. Well, if someone were interested in quitting smoking, what would be your recommendation for someone in that position?
There's lots of different things they could do. They could talk to their healthcare provider, whoever they go to on a normal basis, for tips or suggestions. They could call their health department, local health department, could call the Kentucky Cancer Program. They could also use Kentucky's free quit line, which is 1-800-QUIT-NOW.
Could you tell us a little bit about that phone number and the program that entails with it?
Sure. It's a simple program. All you have to do is pick up the phone. It's a totally free call, and a person could receive some free online help or on the phone help to develop a quit plan for themselves. And that can be for any kind of tobacco. It can be for dip or spit. And also it could be for pregnant smokers too. They have a special protocol for that because our rates of pregnant smokers are really high in Kentucky compared to other parts of the U.S.
That's great. So there's a trained person on the other end of the line that can help them, a health professional. All right. Well, there's another program that we commonly use here in this Purchase District, and the Kentucky Cancer Program helps sponsors that, but of course you're a facilitator of this program. It's called the Cooper-Clayton Method to Stop Smoking. Can you tell us a little bit about that program and what a person might experience when they're going through that program?
Sure. The Cooper-Clayton Method is an effective and very safe way for people to stop smoking. It's not easy, but no way of quitting is easy.
Right.
But it does help make that process a lot simpler for the person. It's a 13-week program that involves lots of different methods. We have education, kind of a support group method with that, and it does use some nicotine replacement therapy products too.
Now, this program was created by Doctors Cooper and Clayton, and Dr. Cooper was a 36-year smoker, and he actually smoked 3 packs a day. And so this program they developed is actually scientific based, correct?
That's correct. They've done studies on the program to find that it does have a lot higher success rates than the regular quitting, going cold turkey.
Right.
You're going to only have about a 10% success rate.
Okay.
And maybe some other programs you might have around a 30, but the Cooper-Clayton Method has had a 40 or maybe even up to 60% success rate.
Well, that's great news. That's great. So how were you trained to be able to facilitate a program like this?
Well, I took a day-long training course to help me relate to what people are going through when they quit smoking. And then you kind of go and watch classes a little bit, and then you're just facilitating. It's really not a difficult process because you're there to guide the class and not actually,
Lead them.
teach the class. Just kind of help them get through the process and accomplish all their goals for the day.
And you said it was done in a group setting, and a group setting is successful for these people. Is it just because they're able to share their experiences? Or what exactly entails in the group setting that make them so successful?
Well, they're all going through the same process at the same time. They do the 12 weeks together. They start out as smokers and end up non-smokers, and through that process they can share their challenges and their solutions, and just kind of complain a little bit if they need to, with people that understand where that's coming from, and because sometimes their families aren't always as supportive or don't understand why they're feeling the way they do, and it's nice for them to have another smoker at the exact same place in their quit process as
And
they
becoming a non-smoker is such a major accomplishment that those that are in a position where they're ready to quit smoking, and in Cooper-Clayton you really talk about where it's not that they're quitting smoking, they're just learning to become a non-smoker, because not anybody really wants to quit smoking that is a smoker, simply for the fact that it's so addictive. And I think some people don't really realize how addictive nicotine is, and as a specialist in that area you may be able to tell us a little bit more about how that nicotine is so addictive to someone.
Right, it's really as addictive as a heroin or cocaine addiction. Quitting or stopping smoking, becoming a non-smoker, as we like to put it in Cooper-Clayton, because quit is such a bad word, because people enjoy their cigarettes. They don't want to quit smoking, but they know that becoming a smoker is a better choice, a healthier choice for them, so they would prefer to be a non-smoker. But it's a process, and all addictions are a process. It takes a long time to work through that, to get over it, and many people have to quit more than once, so you shouldn't be frustrated if you've had to quit 5 times. It might be that 6th time that's going to be your long-term success.
That's a good point. So the nicotine replacement is part of this, and it helps. And so can you explain a little bit about what types of nicotine replacement one might use and how the steps in the program take them through the nicotine replacement?
Sure. There's about 3 different types of nicotine replacement we use in the program. There's the patches, which are really simple. You just stick them on. There's the gum or the lozenge, which is used about the same way. You'll have one piece a few times throughout the day that will help keep your nicotine levels up. But we don't want you to be on those things forever, so the program has built into it a cutting back on that nicotine replacement, because we're getting rid of all those other 4,000 chemicals in the cigarette, but we're just sticking with that nicotine, but we're going to cut it back slowly, because that's the addictive drug in the cigarette, and we want it to be as comfortable as possible. It's not going to be a cakewalk, but we want to give the participants a chance for success and a higher chance, and make it a little bit easier on them. But we'll cut back gradually. The patches come in different amounts, so we'll switch. The first, we'll do the 21 milligram for 6 weeks, then we'll go to the 14 milligram for 2 weeks, and then the last 2 weeks of their patches, they'll use the 7 milligram. For the gum and lozenge, they'll start with 12 or 13 a day, and then they'll cut back by about 1 each week. So
it's gradual, so they're not just in nicotine withdrawal.
Right.
However, some people may experience some withdrawal symptoms while they're on the nicotine replacement, and is that just because they're not getting as much nicotine as they would from the cigarettes?
Right. With the cigarette, you're going to get a little bit higher of a spike. You'll get those more peaks and valleys. With the nicotine replacement, it'll be a lot more level all day. So you're not going to be as high, but you're also not going to be as low with it.
Just keeps you at a comfortable measure.
Just to kind of keep those tough cravings down a little bit.
And the good news is that the withdrawal symptoms eventually go away, correct?
Right. They do. Some people wonder when.
Right.
But, and everyone's different. It takes people. Some people's are really strong and it takes a little longer, and some people find it a little bit easier, but you never know until you try.
Right. So what would happen at the first meeting, the introductory night, when one would come into Cooper-Clayton for the first time?
It's scary. A lot of people are very nervous. They've gotten themselves worked up. It might be someone's first time trying to quit, and it might be someone's 20th time trying to quit in the class. So we have all different types of people with all different types of emotions. But for both of those people, no matter how many times they've tried to quit before, they do have some anxiety over quitting, because if they've tried before, they may, don't feel good about failing. And if they haven't tried before, they don't know how they're going to react to it and what it's going to be like for them. But the first class is really easy, and everyone always likes me a lot better when they come in, because I don't make them quit smoking that first week.
Right.
And
that's what people are scared of.
Right. They're scared that they're going to leave class and they're going to be done with smoking forever. And it's kind of like losing a best friend. You need a mourning period for that cigarette that you've been smoking. Some people for 10 years to 40, 50 years we get in the program.
Right.
So it's been around and a big part of their life for a long time. But what we have them do the first week is keep a journal of tabulate every time they have a cigarette, because we want to find out what times they're smoking, how many they're smoking, and really pick out some maybe spots that they're going to have more trouble, that they're going to need a little bit more willpower, and some ideas for how to get through those times of the day.
Okay. So when they bring that back, you just look for patterns in their smoking habits.
Some patterns, general, just see how many cigarettes they smoke. Some people don't really know how many cigarettes they have. Some days are worse than others, and maybe they smoke more during weekdays, maybe more on weekends, and try to get an average, and also to make sure that they take the right level of nicotine replacement therapy too.
Oh, okay. That would be very important to be able to tell that. And then Dr. Cooper and Dr. Clayton kind of explain what the process and the journey that they're about to embark in, correct, through a video?
Right, and every week after that we'll have a little video featuring the doctors. And they had started this program over 20 years ago. They worked at the University of Kentucky together. Dr. Cooper was a dentist and a heavy smoker, and Dr. Richard Clayton is a specialist in drug addictions.
Okay.
So together they created this program, and they will visit us every week with some little tidbits and information, some help and support for us.
Well, it sounds like a very good program. We definitely want to learn more about that. So we're going to take just a short break, and then we'll come back and discuss this program a little bit more. Welcome back. Today we're discussing smoking cessation. We've talked briefly about the quit line that's available, that's 1-800-QUIT-NOW, and currently we're discussing the Cooper-Clayton to stop smoking method. And we've talked briefly just a little bit about the introductory night, and you were talking about them keeping a log sheet and then coming back that second week, and you as a facilitator will sit down and help review that with them, correct?
Sure.
And then also after that, is that whenever you pick the nicotine replacement, and is that when you're going to make them quit smoking? How do you actually get into that with the participants?
Well, we talk about the advantages and disadvantages of the 3 forms of nicotine replacement therapy. The patches are very simple to use. You just take off the peeling on back and stick it on some skin on your upper body somewhere.
Okay.
And that will just slowly throughout the day give you enough nicotine that you need to keep you at a steady level.
And it's important to do that in the morning instead of at night, correct?
Most people do it in the morning because you do get a little bit more right when you first put that on, so it's a little bit of a burst, but not like smoking a cigarette, unfortunately, but a little bit more, and it wears a little down at night. Because the one side effect with the nicotine replacement therapy patches is that you can have some wacky dreams at night.
Oh, okay.
And those can be, they're usually pretty mild, but a lot of people would comment that they're just very, very visual, and they kind of feel like they're not quite as rested at the end of the night. Their dreams are very, very real, and that they feel like they're doing really active things.
And then some people too may experience some insomnia as well, correct, as a withdrawal symptom that will go away.
So both, it could be related to the patch or the lower level of nicotine too that's going to disturb their sleep a little bit. But morning is usually the best time, depending on people's work schedules. Sometimes some people like it to use it at night too. But
right, I guess if they're shift work, it actually should be put on during the beginning of their work day, correct?
Yeah, of their get up time of their day works best. The gum and the lozenge are a little bit more difficult to use, but the benefit to that is they actually get to have numerous pieces per day, like they would have a cigarette, which can be give them that little mental edge over their addiction.
Maybe you could discuss just a little bit on how to use the lozenges and the gum. Some people may just think you could stick the piece of gum in there and just chomp on it like you do regular gum.
Right, and you can't, and that's the hard part for a lot of people, is that you really don't actually want to chew it a lot. What you want to do is chew it a little bit, or if it's a lozenge, just suck on it until it's a little bit wet, and then you'll tuck it down in your cheek, kind of like a person would with chewing tobacco or dip.
Okay.
You put it down in that sensitive skin there, and that's where you're going to absorb the nicotine through. If you're just chewing it or sucking on your lozenge, you're going to lose a lot of the nicotine down your throat, and it won't absorb through your stomach lining like it would through your cheek. So you're actually
swallowing the nicotine is not effective.
No, it won't help with with your cravings quite as much. It won't keep you at that comfortable level of nicotine. And you also have to be careful. You don't want to drink liquids while you're using the gum or lozenge, because that will also wash it down your throat instead of absorbed through your skin like you need.
And some people may be scared to do the patches or the lozenge or the gum for the simple reason of cost. It's very easy to go through your house and even roll change if you need to be able to afford a pack of cigarettes, but to be able to go out and actually purchase that replacement therapy can be a large lump sum at the beginning, but in the end, does it actually pay off to do the nicotine replacement instead of buying the packs of cigarettes?
People spend, on average, about a pack-a-day smoker would spend around $1,000 a year on cigarettes. So although it's a commitment for a few months, you're only going to be on the nicotine replacement therapy for 12 weeks. As opposed to the rest of your life, you'll be having a net of $1,000 a year. So
and what
that's
you could
a pretty
do with
big
that money
difference.
instead.
Yeah, it's hard to plan for that. It is hard to buy that first pack of the nicotine replacement therapy, especially if you're used to buying cigarettes just by the pack and not the carton. Of course, if you're used to buying cigarettes by the carton, it's a pretty fair trade.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Okay. Well, as a facilitator in the group, do you experience that you kind of have to really jump in there and take control of the class and lead them, or is it easy for these groups to come together and be able to facilitate a group setting themselves to be able to discuss their anxiety or certain situations they're experiencing?
Usually the first couple weeks are a little more difficult because the people don't know each other yet, and they're nervous about the process, and they internalize their feelings a little more. But by the third week, usually the facilitator is just there to bring the video and the supplies. So the class kind of leads itself. We just try to remind them of, the educational points and the tips that the doctors send for us to give to the participants.
And the educational pieces, is there any kind of papers or exercises that these people get to look at and take home with them and do each week in the classes?
Yeah, every single week we will watch the video and then do a little review of that just briefly, and then we'll get some other educational materials, pamphlets or tip sheets or things that they can use throughout the week that are kind of things they can go to whenever they're having a hard moment or have a question. It could be anything from some exercise tips, because most smokers are really afraid. A big thing they're afraid of is gaining weight.
That's very true.
Typically with the Cooper-Clayton method, people gain about 3 to 5 pounds. So it's not very much, Unfortunately, you're going to gain a little, but you can get that back later once you're more comfortable being a non-smoker. You can take that weight back off, but we try to teach them not to eat instead of smoke. Snacking is a really bad crutch to pick up when you're trying to quit smoking, and we talk about different things you can do instead of just putting candy bars in your mouth.
Other things to keep your hands busy.
Right. And then the class can also discuss things of that nature.
And sometimes probably the toughest cigarette for people to give up is that first one in the morning, correct? And so whenever they're on the commit lozenges and the gum, I think it's very important for a person to maybe realize that with that, when they're trying to cut back on the gum and the lozenge, maybe that first one of the day is not the one to cut back on. Maybe it's one later in the day when they're more busy, correct?
It could be. It's easiest to cut the first one out, and wait a little bit longer so you have more throughout the day. But if anyone they can cut out, is
Cut it out.
great. If they can get themselves busy for a little longer stretch,
Right.
that would be a good idea.
But if they wake up with just that intensity, go
Right.
ahead and
I would go ahead and use that first one of the day, and it'll kind of get you through that morning.
Yeah.
You might have to change your daily routine a little bit to make yourself more comfortable. If you're used to getting up and sitting here and having a cigarette and coffee, you might need to switch rooms where you drink your coffee in the morning. You
Maybe
might
drink
have
orange
to
juice first
drink
thing.
something different.
Yeah.
You do want to watch your caffeine a little bit because when you're getting less nicotine, you're not going to need quite as much caffeine as you used to before. You'll metabolize the caffeine a little slower, so you will want to cut back on your caffeine intake a little bit too. And I would
that's good.
recommend all participants in the program to cut back on things like alcohol. Also, not just because of the metabolism, but also because it does make you tend to make choices a little more rashly.
Right.
And so people could say, oh, I'll just have one cigarette. But we know how one cigarette leads into your pack-a-day habit right away again.
And it's not a good idea to smoke cigarettes and take nicotine replacement at the same time.
No, it actually is dangerous. Nicotine is a drug in the patches and lozenges and gum. It's a controlled amount that you're getting. But if you're taking cigarettes with those also, and you're getting your steady dose, you can have things that are not so severe, like a headache, or you could have severe reactions like a heart attack too, because it will affect
Well, that's
your
very important.
circulatory system.
Right. Okay. At the end of the program, is there any way that, these people have just completed 13 weeks and they've become non-smokers. Is there anything that they do to celebrate that or
Oh, of course.
reward them for that?
We always have a party on the last night
That's great.
for everyone involved, and we invite them to bring their families if they're interested, and so they can kind of celebrate their successes together. Because it is a big accomplishment. It's probably one of the most difficult things they'll do in their lives. They didn't become a smoker in a day,
Right.
and of course they can't become a smoker overnight either. We put our 13 weeks into that, and they work long and hard to do that. It's mental work, so it takes a lot out of you, but at the end we're very excited.
And I'm sure their family's very proud of them too as well.
Right. Most families are very supportive in their efforts to quit.
Become non-smokers. Well, are there any classes of this Cooper-Clayton? We've sat here and talked about it, but are there any classes that are offered in our area year-round that people could attend?
Yes, we offer them in Paducah. They switch between Western Baptist and Lourdes every 4 weeks. Those start in July and September, January, and April
Okay.
are usually the start months for those. So when one is ending, the other one is beginning. So if you do need an extra added support, you could attend the next class just as a support group and as a accomplished Cooper-Clayton graduate.
That might be good too for somebody that's coming in scared to death about becoming a non-smoker, and there's someone that has successfully completed that program.
Right, it makes it seem a little more real and accomplish, something that they can accomplish. And it's not going to be as painful as maybe they're worried about.
How long do these classes last each night? that they go?
Just an hour. We keep it an hour or a little less, depending on how much talking is going on, how much discussion, but no longer than an hour. So it's not a big, thing to commit to.
Right.
You commit 1 hour a week is not too bad.
No,
So.
not too bad. Now, is there any other classes that are offered in the Purchase District area?
Yes, we actually offer 2 a year in the Murray area,
Okay.
and then 2 a year in Mayfield area, and also we try to do about 1 a year in Ballard, Carlisle, Hickman, and Fulton, at least 1 a year for those counties. So if anyone's interested, they could call the Purchase District Health Department,
Okay.
and we could get them on a waiting list for a class if we don't have one scheduled yet, and
Okay.
call them back when one is.
Great. And there is a website that people can go to and list as people do create classes in the area. They do notify the Kentucky Cancer Program, and we do put those onto a website, which we will show that website here in just a few minutes. And then also they can also call the Kentucky Cancer Program office for some in their area as well. Now, how many classes do we have that actually have like a high success rate in our area. Is there a good turnout in our area for success rate?
We do. We've had pretty good successes in the area, about pretty much level with the rest of the state of Kentucky. And we're trying to fill classes all the time. So
Great.
we like to keep them full. It's more fun when there's a bigger group of people that can be together. There's more support system.
Okay.
The reason why we offer so few in the smaller counties around here is we want to make sure that we can get enough people
A good
to make
group size.
to make the classes more successful.
And would there be the same facilitator at each class usually?
We try to keep it to about 2 facilitators per class, just for subbing, so they can sub in and out if they need to. But we'd like to have the same because it's hard. We want to keep up with how our participants are doing too, and we want to know what successes they've had and what troubles that they're maybe having with it, so we can be assistance to them if they need it.
I guess you become kind of pretty tight in that group setting, and they're sharing their battles and experiences with it.
Yep, it is. It's very rewarding to work with people through the becoming a non-smoker process. So it makes us happy too when they're successful.
Well, great. Well, we've definitely learned a lot today about the 1-800-QUIT-NOW, and then also the Cooper-Clayton Method to stop smoking. And if anybody has any questions on any of these programs, feel free to call the Kentucky Cancer Program at 442-1310, or as Megan said, you can call the Purchase District Health Department. And also, we will show you the website to go on and actually view classes that are in your area. And we also want to mention that Marshall County does offer classes as well through their local health department. And so if anybody is interested in becoming a non-smoker, this is definitely an exciting program from what we've learned today to be able to benefit from those. Well, thank you, Megan, for coming today and sharing your experiences as a facilitator and a little bit more about these classes, so maybe more people may be interested in becoming a non-smoker. And through especially the Cooper-Clayton method, because it seems that it's maybe an easier transition into non-smoking than to just trying it cold turkey, right?
Yes, it is, and more successful, not just easier, but more
great.
Successful too. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much. And again, if you have any questions on today's program, please call the Kentucky Cancer Program at 442-1310. Thanks for joining us.